This is Jackson Robert Scott, aka Georgie from It, and you're listening to Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Well, I'm Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. We really appreciate the support. Just want to give a quick shout out to our social medias real quick and our website, don'tgoouthere.com. You'll find all of our interviews, episodes, celebrity intros, and our store if you want to buy any merchandise. And our social media, just, don't go out there. Just search for that, and you'll see Brian's awesome graphic he made for us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And one more little thirsty thing I want to ask real quick is we're 7 iTunes ratings away from 100. If you have an iPhone, if you could just give us a quick 5-star rating, we'd really appreciate that. And earlier this year, Mike kind of brought this up. He said, why don't we this summer review the 2 new It movies? So these are those 2 weeks. Tonight, we're going to be reviewing 2017's It Chapter 1. Brother Mike, would you like to go first on your general overview?
Yeah, brother. Hey, everybody. How you doing? All right. So I did like the idea of doing it in the summer because, both these movies were released late summer. They were kind of like the summer horror movie. And the first one it made so much damn money. And I felt like if we're going to do it and we're going to do Pennywise and we need to do the movies first, we can review the miniseries down the road because I have a ton of problems with that. But overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's scary, but I think that it does a good job of trying to be scary, if that makes sense. I think Pennywise the Clown is a great, and I do mean great, I don't know what you call him, I guess villain, antagonist, whatever. I think Bill Skarsgard is phenomenal. I think the cast of kids is perfect. I like every single kid in this movie. I think they're great. I like the story direction. Again, obviously we're pulling from Stephen King's novel and somewhat from the miniseries a little bit, but I think the biggest flaw in this movie is its length. I think a lot of people can agree with that. This one, not as much as Chapter 2, which we'll get into, but overall, I really, really, really enjoy this movie. I can pop it at any time. It's a long watch, but I can pretty much stand it for the most part.
Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what Mike said there. I'm a big Stephen King fan personally. I like a lot of Stephen King books. I like a lot of Stephen King movies, even though a lot of the movies aren't very well received and reviewed. That doesn't bother me. I like them just because of what they are. This was no exception. I think that this one is the best of the Stephen King movies, at least what I've seen. And I'm not counting The Shining in that because Stephen King had so many differences with the creative direction of The Shining. So it's hard to consider that, his movie. But as far as ones that stay pretty true, this is probably the best adaptation that you can find. And I'm a big fan of this movie. I agree 100%, though. My major flaw with this film is the length. It is too damn long. And the second one is too goddamn long.
Yeah, I was going to say it's too motherfucking long.
But that being said, when you take it for what it is, it's still, that doesn't detract from the quality of the movie. It doesn't, it doesn't make you hate the movie, dislike the movie at all. It's just there are scenes that could be cut out. And we'll get into that when we get to the scene by scene. But overall, I really enjoy this film. I agree. It's not really a scary movie, but it is scary if you're afraid of clowns. And I know people that are afraid of clowns in it. It'll really fuck with you in that regard if you have phobias that are exploited in this film. And that being said, I agree the kid casting was perfect. Bill Skarsgård was perfect. And the dialogue was written perfectly. The setting was done perfectly. There's a lot of things that are just so well done in this film that overall it's a really damn good film.
All right, I'll go next real quick. To nobody's surprise, I hadn't seen the original miniseries, and I hadn't seen either of these 2 movies. I had a friend. We all met on Twitter. One other Twitter friend, she asked me if I wanted to go see It Chapter 2, and I said, well, I haven't even seen the first one yet. So I rented it on Amazon. I kind of, it was late at night. I was kind of tired, so I didn't get to pay attention like I did for this most recent viewing. I think this movie is great, honestly. Like they said, I love Stranger Things. I like the Goonies. I like Stand By Me.
Yep.
And you get a lot of those vibes with these kids, the connection they have, their bond, their friendship. It's awesome. Bill Skarsgard as Pennywise, he's honestly incredible. And when you watch his interviews and see his face, how good he is with his facial expressions, it's even magnified with the makeup and costume. It's incredible. I really enjoy this movie, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I actually fucking love this movie. And when I say that, I view chapter 1 and 2, the movies, as like one film because, it just being one big long book, which I absolutely love the book, by the way. But, even in the book, I liked this part where they were kids, a little bit more. So I'm more partial to the first It movie here. I'm very glad they left out stuff out of the movie, and changed a few things. And we'll get into that later. But, stuff like the underage, gangbang and the magic turtle and all the stuff that was in the book. I'm very glad that they left out of this. But, seriously, Stephen King can kind of write some fucked up shit.
Yeah.
But I know it being too long is a complaint, but I'm one of those people, and me and Dustin were just talking about this off air. I'm one of those people where it doesn't, I don't mind it being this long, because I love it and I want every single aspect I can get in the movie. And I kind of compared that to Lord of the Rings fans. If you're a diehard Lord of the Rings fan, which I'm not really, I was like, man, this movie's long as hell.
Yep.
But if you're a diehard Lord of the Rings fan, you're like, man, can this movie be 6 hours long and give me that extended, super, super big long cut, So that's kind of how I feel about this. I mean, I could watch this for another 3 hours and it not bother me at all. I want to see the super, super long cut that the director is talking about doing, and just having them both together and adding some more scenes and stuff. I want to see that. But, and the 90s miniseries, I grew up with that and it has its place, but to me, it's not even a comparison to me. They finally, to me, did this movie right. It's not on TV. It's not trying to, dumb down, violence and things like that. The miniseries has its place, like I said. And, Tim Curry, he was great, but this is not even close to me. They finally did this movie right, and or this book right, and I love this movie, especially this chapter.
Yeah, before we jump into the scene by scene, I want to say one more thing about, like Brian mentioned, director Andy Muschietti, however you say the last name. The only other movie that I know of that he's directed is Mama, and I love Mama. That's a great horror movie. He wrote it, directed it. That movie is phenomenal. I love that. We're going to review that down the road too. But the cinematography is great in both films. I'm a fan of his work.
And
Anybody got any else? Yeah, go ahead.
Before you go again, Nico, I want to piggyback. I think you all kind of touched on it, and Nico, you did specifically. It just has that Goonies, Stand By Me, Stranger Things, like 80s kids coming of age vibe set with a horror killer clown. Like it's very 2 for 1, if you know what I mean. Like it's got that traditional, all those movies that I just mentioned, and then you put that in the backdrop of a horror movie. And I think that's why it's probably, I'm going to spoil it, even though we're still going to review 2 next week. I prefer this one over the second one because everyone has already kind of gone through this, at least all of us, that coming of age, that growing up. We just didn't have a damn shape-shifting killer clown coming after us, thank God. Well, never mind, I won't make the joke. Go ahead.
Y'all ready to jump into scene by scene?
Let's do it.
We're just going to do the opening scene because, by God, this opening scene is incredible to me.
Yeah.
The film starts with some opening credits and outside shots in the rain of Georgie and Bill's house. Bill is making a boat for Georgie. Bill says he doesn't feel well, so he doesn't want to go outside with him. He sends Georgie to the cellar to get the wax. And then we get another shot of outside, and it just says October 1988. The light's not working, so when Georgie goes downstairs to the cellar, he goes in the dark. He thinks he sees some eyes, but he gets a flashlight and he realizes it's not. I think it's just a couple light bulbs. Bill finishes up the boat. He puts the wax on it so it'll float. Georgie, he hugs Bill and puts on his raincoat to go play with the boat outside. He chases it down the curb, having a blast until the boat goes into the runoff drain. He now meets Pennywise the clown. He asks if he wants the boat and a balloon. He then introduces himself after Georgie says he's not supposed to talk to strangers. A woman goes to her porch and sees Georgie looking into the sewer. Popcorn is both of their favorite that because Pennywise asks if he likes all the circus food. Pennywise holds the boat and Georgie reaches for it, and then Pennywise grabs his arm and he bites it off. Georgie goes to crawl away, but Pennywise's arm comes out and pulls him into the drain. The woman now only sees blood where Georgie was. This opening scene, I really didn't do it justice with my breakdown because you got to watch this scene. It's great. Just the introduction of Pennywise is amazing. Mike, do you want to go first? Opening scene?
Yeah, man, I'll go first. So right off the bat, you get some relatability with Bill and Georgie. You get that big brother little brother thing. Big brother not wanting to play with the little brother, but you kind of feel bad for Georgie on one hand, but on the other hand, you've also been the big brother too, where you're like, I'm good, and it's just the littlest little lie. So he goes outside and plays by himself. And look, I think the cinematography here is great. The way they shoot this is phenomenal. Like and that's what we talk about, Brian. Like you mentioned, the miniseries just being kind of its own thing. This is a well-made fucking movie. Like big budget, a lot of money into it, where you can see it pay off in some of these scenes right here. The rain is used great, and I love Bill Skarsgard in this scene. He's so creepy, and not even in like the clown way and the freaking creepy pedophile way. He plays it so well. And the eyes, the way they shoot Bill Skarsgård here is just so damn good. And the voice that he chose to use for his Pennywise, that's the only thing that every now and then can kind of get me a little bit. That voice is so creepy. I love the way he uses it. And then, I'm glad that we get to see the death of Georgie. And I know why they didn't do it in the miniseries. So you get to see, he is a killer clown. So that preys on kids. Probably a good idea to show a kid death, as I've mentioned on this show before. It makes it more impactful, and I just love the interaction. We're not strangers anymore, and then God, that's so creepy. I love this scene. I think it's great. It's one of once you get Georgie walking outside and playing on his own, I'm hooked, man. I sink right into it. A great opening scene.
Yeah, it's a very dark opening, and I can't say enough about this opening either. I love it. It's one of the great ones in my opinion. I mean, you've got the rain, the lightning, everything about it is ominous as hell, right down to their mom playing that creepy Disney World haunted house piano music for you right at the beginning. The cinematography is amazing. You feel like you're running down the road with Georgie and running with him before he runs into that police marker too. But I can't say enough about that. And I will say thanks to Dustin for this, because ever since our Friday the 13th Part 6 review, I pretty much think of Dave Chappelle jumping up anytime a slasher comes on. So when Georgie lost his boat and said, "Bill's going to kill me," I thought, oh, well, if you mean Bill Skarsgård, gotcha, bitch. So,
yes.
But man, him crawling with no arm, man, those effects. And he's such a cute kid, dude. So it just quickly shows you that this is not like the dumbed down miniseries, like Mike said, you're watching. Like it really gets right to the point right off the bat. And, in all seriousness, these kid actors, we've talked about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it the rest of the review. But these kid actors are the best I've ever seen. Shout out to Jackson Robert Scott, who played Georgie, for doing the opening to our episode, by the way. Thank you. But every single one of them is amazing in this film. And Bill Skarsgård, whew, I mean, only 4 minutes of dialogue this entire film. And you can't, as a casting director, you can't mess this casting up. Like, you have to find the perfect Pennywise, because, everybody's anticipating this finally done film after all these years. And I don't think they couldn't have gotten a better one. Not even Ethan Hawke, Dustin. Maybe Brad. Maybe,
come on.
Maybe Brad Pitt. I don't know.
Yeah. Brad Pitt would have done great here.
You know who else would have done great? David Arquette.
Who's that? Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
To get that too, by the way, you have to
I quit. I'm out.
But last thing, fun fact, it took him about 3 hours to get on his makeup, Pennywise makeup every morning, which still sucks. But based on our interviews with people like Robert Englund, don'tgooutthere.com, you can listen to that. They would actually have gotten, they would have gladly taken 3 hours, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny you said that because I actually read. So the first couple times they did, it actually took about 5 hours until they got it down pat. Then they got in a rhythm and they shaved about an hour and a half off, like you said there. Um, but as far as opening scenes, man, this is perfect for a horror movie. You get that dark, ominous feel with the weather that they set, the setting the mood of the film, which is perfect because the rest of the film is relatively sunny and fair weather. And so I love that they gave it to you right away to get you in and then didn't rely on it too heavily like a lot of horror films do. Um, Georgie is perfectly cast, just the cutest little boy in the world. And he actually is believable in his delivery of his lines, which is hard to do when you're dealing with children that age sometimes. I think that he did a great job acting. I can't lie. Every single time he runs into that barricade, I rewind it about 3 or 4 times and laugh my ass off. That is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I don't know why, but it's hilarious to me. But then, yeah, the way that Pennywise is introduced, just the ominous feel of his eyes appearing, his eyes changing colors, which is a nod to the original miniseries in the book. There, it changed from like yellow to green. It's just so creepy as hell. And the way that he preys on the innocence of a little kid. I got a balloon for you. Come down. And, it's just so fucking creepy. And the special effects when he grabs Georgie's arm and the way his mouth opens up and all the teeth emerge, just fantastic special effects there. That's how CGI is done right, unlike the ending of See No Evil. And I want to say that old lady on the porch is a real piece of shit because she walks outside because it's really coming down, and she raises her blinds up so they don't blow away. She sees a little boy in the drain, and it says saying, "Hey, little boy, get away from the drain. It's storming. Go inside." She just goes back in, and then she comes back outside, sees a pool of blood, and is like, "Ah, fuck it." Like, what kind of neighbor is that? But yeah, these scenes are phenomenal. Setting the tone is paramount to a successful movie. If you blow the opening scene, 9 times out of 10 you've blown the movie. And they got a 12 out of 10 here on this opening scene. I think this was brilliantly done.
Absolutely. And one thing I really like is the fact that Pennywise already knew Georgie's brother's name too, and Georgie didn't like catch on to it like in a creepy way. He just kind of just kept going along with it. I really like that too.
Yep.
Has anybody else got any final thoughts on the opening scene before we move on?
No, but Mike hasn't given anybody a go to hell in a long time, and that lady on the porch seems like she needs.
Oh, she can go right to hell. Oh, absolutely. She can get all the way the fuck out. Like, how our show is called "Don't Go Out There." No, I want her to go out there and get fucking eaten.
All right. June 1989. We get some aerial shots of the countryside. Mike is working on a farm as I just wrote as a sheep killer, but he's hesitant. And then Creighton Duke, Mike and Brian's man, Creighton Duke,
Yes.
gives him a speech on the 2 places you can be in the world. And now we're at school and class is dismissed. We meet 4 of our stars and the bullies. Beverly is harassed by Greta and others in the bathroom. They pour trash juice all over in the bathroom. The boys dump all their books in the trash cans. The bullies mess with them, but refrain from, really hurting them when they see the cops are watching. Now we meet new kid Ben, and he has a crush on Beverly. He likes new kids on the block. She's the only one who signs his yearbook. Bill gets home, and his dad is really pissed off. Bill made a replica, sewer tunnel. His dad yells at him. He's dead. There's nothing we can do. He rips the blueprints down, and he takes them back to his office. Mike is on his bike now, heading to town. He hides in an alley when he sees the bully's car. He sees a door open for the butcher shop, and he sees these hands coming out of it. Then this door flings open. We see Pennywise in the back behind those, supermarket doors or whatever, those little hanging blinds. Then all of a sudden the bullies drive past and yell, "Get out of my town." I think that's got some racial overtones to it. The butcher comes out to see if he's all right. Stanley is in the synagogue reading, and his dad, the rabbi, says to put the book back since it's obvious he's not using it. Stanley, he straightens up this crooked painting on the wall, and then he puts the book on the shelf. And then the painting, it falls off the wall, and then the lights start to flicker. He notices that this woman, the woman image was on the painting, isn't there anymore. and we see the image, that woman's hands behind him, and then it drops something on the ground, and then it smiles and it lunges at him, and he runs out of the office. That's the next two scenes I got wrote down. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So I, first of all, shout out to Creighton Duke, my man. But also I want to backtrack real quick. If things were different, if I were in a different life here, I might have to tell Bill Skarsgard to call me sometime. All right. Anyway, so
What?
real quick,
What?
I said if things were different, Anyways, so look, man crush is a man crush. What are you gonna do? All right. So
Okay,
Mike
goddamn.
and his dad. So I like all the I like the way they casted these bullies. Like they I don't know if it's just how they're costumed or whatever, but they look like bullies, and some of them I recognize from other stuff, so that's always kind of fun. About that's the kid from blah 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 blah. Like I really, knowing what we get in chapter 2, I love the casting of these kids. Like just it's freaking perfect, man. The way they all turned out. But so that's what I think every time I see the bullies. And again, I love Ben. Like he like I was a little fat kid, so I'm rooting for the little fat kid, obviously. So I have that, that thing. I want Ben to get Beverly. That's what I wanted the whole time. And then, Mike and all the stuff. There's definitely some racial overtones, which you mentioned, Nico. And I think I don't know if I needed it, but it was the '80s, so I understand it. Stanley in the painting is really the only negative I take away. Like there's not there's not a lot here. There's some dialogue, and you're setting up some story and some character development. But Stanley in the painting, it's not that I don't like the painting getting creepy with him. But the CGI here, we've talked about it before. Yeah, you can't really do this without CGI, but the CGI here really bugs me. And there's a lot of CGI in this movie that really bugs me. It's not because it's CGI. It's because there's a lot of CGI. It's even worse in the second one, so I don't want to criticize the first one too much. But some of the way they use the CGI with the woman in the painting, I'm not a big fan of. That's not scary to me, and I don't know who it is scary to. It just looks kind of funny. We talked about it in the Conjuring 2 episode, I believe, where the minute we saw some of the the demons they were using, is like, okay, that's not scary at all. So it's kind of how I felt with this woman in the painting. But when you first get to see the full get up, in this collection scene, you get to see the full get up of Bill Skarsgard as Pennywise. Man, the costume is great. Everything is so fucking great about the way he plays Pennywise. I love that about it. But one negative takeaway would be the painting. Just it's a little too much CGI for me. But overall, I like this collection scene.
Well, and both of you are absolutely correct about the racial overtones because, in the book, and they don't really hammer away at it very much in the movie, but, in the book, Henry Bauer's dad is I think he's a farmer. He's definitely not a cop, but I think he's a farmer, and he's a super, super racist towards Mike and Mike's family. So I think that that's kind of where that was, a little bit, but without reading the book, you would have never known that part. And there's some more, I think, I've got in my notes for later on with Henry's dad. But as far as these scenes, again, I can't say enough about these kid actors. And, Nico touched on it a little bit. Obviously, this book had huge influence on Stranger Things, and I love both of them. Actually, a lot of the Richie and the Eddie banter between the kids was improv. So that actually makes it even better, knowing that was a lot of that wasn't even scripted. There's actually a deleted scene where Ben gets Henry in trouble for cheating on some test, and now Henry's got to go to summer school, and so that's actually the real reason why Henry's actually looking for Ben after class there. I mean, yeah, he's a psychopath, but that's like the actual explanation right there for that. And lastly, the painting with Stanley scene, I like that. I think it's creepy. Like I watched it with my son this past time, who's tried 4 or 5 times to get through this movie and scared enough every time that he quits watching it. But this one he finally got through because it was in the middle of the day. But he hates that painting. It's really disturbing. And I actually read back when this first came out, but the book is actually set in the 50s. So obviously the monsters that scared the kids in the book were more of that time period, like the Universal style monsters. But since this time period was shifted to the 80s, director Andy Muschietti, however we decided we say that, wanted to actually have monsters of that time period scare the kids. Exclusively, he wanted Freddy Krueger, being that this was a New Line film. And I'm pretty sure that this was the scene that he was toying around doing this with and putting Freddy in. But he actually decided it was too much of a distraction, which I definitely get that. I would have loved to have seen Robert Englund cameo there, and it would have been a hell yeah moment. But it would have. But that's the problem. It would have been a hell yeah moment, and not so much of a kind of disturbing one, which we got. So I get that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you there. These scenes, first of all, I want to go back to when Beverly is being bullied at the school and they dump the trash water on her. How did her backpack dry so quickly when she goes outside? I mean, that shit looked like it was brand new. That annoys me. Little continuity thing there. But yeah, these actors are great. You got Joe Dirt Jr., who's just an absolute douchebag, and here's the thing about these.
I called him Joe Dirt in my notes too.
I mean, come on, tell me I'm wrong.
Definitely looked like he came from Joe Dirt's left testicle, you know.
That's the product of Joe Dirt and Brandy. But the thing is about this group of scenes is that this is where I think some of it could have been trimmed to take off of the total runtime, because there's nothing bad in these scenes necessarily, but we didn't need all of it. And going back to the monster, like you said, I do like how, or the lady in the painting, the monster that way, I do like how they established very early on that it can take the form of whatever scares the kid. It establishes very early on that it is not just a clown. It's whatever that it'll manifest itself in whatever fear that person has. And so they did a good job establishing that very on. It's just these scenes, there's not a lot of bad to take away. Like you guys said, it's just there's some stuff that could have been cut and viewed as fluff or filler.
All right, Bill, Eddie, and Richie, they load up on snacks as they head out. Richie offers to kiss Eddie's mom before leaving. Ben is writing a secret admirer postcard to Bev. The librarian brings him a book and asks why isn't he out with friends. It's the history of Old Derry. He flips the pages and sees these scary images. He sees a head in a tree and it scares him and he slams the book shut. He turns around and he sees this red balloon floating. He follows it and sees, like, I just wrote it's a steaming Easter egg, and he follows more of these eggs deeper into the library. He gets to a room with flashing lights and children's laughter. He sees this headless creature, and it chases him now. And then you get a quick flash of Pennywise, and then Ben runs into the librarian. He leaves, and the bullies catch him. Ben cries for help, but this car drives right past him, and then we see a red balloon in the back seat in the back glass. Bowers punches him and then starts carving his name into his stomach with a knife. Ben, he kicks Bowers and he rolls down this hill. The bullies, and they all pursue after him. Bowers, he can't find his knife, so he sends all the other bullies after Ben. The four boys are searching the sewer pipes, and I wrote, these sewer pipes are big enough just for people to walk in, apparently. I've never seen this before. Bill finds a shoe, and they think it might be Georgie's. Stanley and Eddie are real hesitant to go in there. They hear Ben fall down, and they ask what happened. Patrick, one of the bullies, enters a pipe looking for Ben. He hears whispers, and when he lights the flame, he sees these zombie-like beings. He screams and runs, but the entrance is now blocked off. A red balloon is in front of him, and Pennywise charges and kills him. The boys ride into town on their bikes. Bill, Eddie, and Stanley go into a pharmacy to get stuff to treat Ben's wounds. They now meet Beverly. She walks up front to distract the cashier. The boys run out with the supplies. Bill is in a trance when he sees her outside again. And then Bill invites her to come hang out awkwardly. And then I just wrote Eddie treats Ben's wounds. That's the next two scenes I got. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so right off the bat, you feel sympathy for the character of Ben. He has no friends. He's a loner. Him and Beverly are a lot alike. So they have that kind of loner syndrome, and they're not quite part of the quote unquote losers club yet. So I like how this set of scenes gets us there. As far as story development, anyway, so the scene with Ben and the bullies, that it's almost a tough watch. And they, like we said in the mini series, they don't show him starting to carve his name into him, and in this one they do. So I like that. It makes it even more emotional. Makes you even connect more with Ben. And I like that Ben finally stood up for himself and freaking kicked that asshole Henry Bowers. By the way, that's his new name. That asshole Henry Bowers. So I like how we get them introduced to the four boys and how they try to help them and they're building that friendship. And I love. Okay, so some of the stuff I don't like. Again, there's a lot of CGI. The body that's running after Ben, the headless body. It's done really well as far as how the effect, and how it's shot. I'm okay with, but again, it's I don't know. There's a lot of like shaky cam there, and they use that a lot. They use that with Patrick the Bully getting killed, or or where Pennywise is kind of shaking at him. I'm not a huge fan of that. There's a lot of that in this movie, but I'm willing to forgive it because some of the other great shots we get, like it's not a huge knock on the movie to me. But I like this collection of scenes. We get a lot of story development here. A lot of Ben and Beverly are now with these other four. They're starting to come together and form their own bond, and I like that. I like the pharmacy scene too because it shows that Beverly's not, she's not what her school reputation is. She's down to help them out. She feels just like they do, like outcasts. And I like how they all kind of come together, and that's what these scenes are for. And Patrick the Bully being killed, fuck him, because he's in another show that I didn't like, and he was an asshole in that, and he's an asshole in this, so fuck him. But again, a little too much CGI Pennywise. I could use a little bit more Bill Skarsgard and a little less computer animation there. But other than that, I really like these scenes.
I get that. The scene with Ben in the library, it gives us some exposition, like Mike said, and some scares. But Ben, to me, and the good thing about this is, there's characters for almost everybody to relate to. You're going to at least relate to one of these kids that are out there. And to me, Ben is like the least interesting character in this whole group of kids, like to me personally. And so when a scene is like just him in it, I feel like it drags on for me a little bit until obviously the headless Easter boy comes into play. But but I love the character development and it was necessary, like Mike said. I mean, you're right that Henry Bowers scene was a little bit hard to watch. I mean, that's a good thing. Being a bully is one thing, but being crazy enough that you're going to carve your name into another kid's stomach, I mean, that just shows. Look, I knew a lot of crazy people and kids growing up, running around the woods and whatnot. Maybe I was naive, but I never knew anybody that crazy. The scene with the bully Patrick, using the spray flamethrower was awesome though. Little fun fact: I used to actually use that same tactic with hairspray filming Mortal Kombat movies in the backyard of Scorpion's finishing moves. So don't tell my parents about that, but that's a little fun fact.
Nice.
By the way, gotcha, bitch, is exactly what I said yet again when Patrick lit up that zombie in the sewer. So yet again, thank you, Dustin. And but I mean, I know Mike just said that the CGI kind of bothered him a little bit, but I actually was the opposite. I loved the way that speed up camera tactic they use on Pennywise when he approaches them. To me, it's so inhuman and just fucking like awesome. I don't know. I love it. Whereas last week I complained about See No Evil using the same speed up tactic, poorly. This is a good example of good usage, in my opinion. Last little thing, I'll just throw that out there. That creepy pedo pharmacist that hit on Beverly.
Yeah.
You know what? He really kind of does resemble Christopher Reeve. Rest in peace, Christopher Reeve. But he really did to me.
Yeah, I can see that. He definitely had the same like bone structure. So I can see that.
And she looked just like Lois Lane.
Oh, Jesus. Now, so on these scenes, here's the thing. I got a scorching hot take right here. We'll start with the library. Yeah, the character development's nice and all to show what a loser that Ben is. And I don't mean that to be mean, but if you're too big of a loser to even be a part of the losers club, you suck. So,
God damn.
Did we need that? I feel like we could have scared the shit out of him, a different way without taking up a good 10 minutes of the film that could be shaving off of the runtime. Okay, fast forward. Let's say we do need that part because we do want to keep that character development. Here's my hot take. This is going to be unpopular, I know. I get it that it's a part of the book, and I get it, blah, blah, blah. I would have been okay with him cutting Henry completely the fuck out of this movie. Why do we need two antagonists in this film? We've got Pennywise. We don't need a bully that's going to carve his name into people's stomachs as well. And I don't dislike him. I mean, I hated his guts, but I don't dislike the fact that he's included in the film. But did we need it? I think that's something
fair.
that they could have cut to save a lot of time, to drive more of the focus back towards the main group of kids and to Pennywise, because in the end, did he really matter in this film? I know that in the second film, blah blah blah, but in this film, did he really matter that much? And
I don't
then,
think that's scorching hot take. I mean, I can see with that. I could see that for sure.
well, I just figure, there's going to be a lot of purists that hear that and say, no, you can't fuck with the original. Oh, that's not a pun intended. You can't fuck with the book. You can't take such a vital character out. Blah blah blah. I disagree in this point because he does not matter, and he's a douchebag, and we don't need him. The pharmacy scene, I didn't pick up on this the first like 2 times I watched it. And then the third time I finally noticed that when Beverly is, in the tampon aisle and she starts to walk and then she sees the girl that dumped the trash water on her, I didn't realize that was the pharmacist's daughter. Because then you hear her say, bye, daddy, or him say bye something and she say bye too. I didn't realize that. And then later in the film, she's the same girl that's sitting behind the counter being a dick about the gazebos. And so I didn't realize that was his daughter at the beginning of the film. I guess I just didn't put it all together. But that was cool to see, a little bit of storyline continuity there. And yeah, that pharmacist can fuck all the way off. I hated him more than any character in the book other than Beverly's dad, because pedophilia can get all the way the fuck out. But this is a great set of scenes. I really like you said, the scene where Patrick is in the sewer tunnel there, and he's got his little flamethrower and he's trying to see where he's going. And then he sees all the zombies coming at him. That's scary as shit. This is a film that relies on jump scares for the majority of their scares, and they are done correctly. They're not jump scares for the hell of it because a cat knocked a pitcher of water over in the middle of the night or some bullshit like that. These are jump scares like, oh shit, we got to get out of here. And then when Pennywise comes from behind the balloon and comes towards him, I think that was all brilliantly done. I get what you're saying, Mike, about the CGI jerky camera and everything. And like Brian said, I think that if it was done in the way that See No Evil was, it wouldn't have worked for me, because they didn't do that to portray how Jacob Goodnight was moving. They did it just as a way to set the tone of the scene. This film does it in a way to show that this is a supernatural being, and that's how herky-jerky they move and how fast they can get up on you. And I think it came across really well done to me.
I agree.
All right, Dustin, I got to disagree with you about Bowers in this movie. The next movie, how the hell he survives getting tackled down this well, you tell me. But,
Right.
I like Bowers. Not, I don't like Bowers, but I personally, I love the scene later he's in when he finds his knife again. That scene is powerful. I love the rock wars that the kids have. Well, we'll get to this later. I like Bowers in this movie, though. I got to disagree with you on that. Respectfully.
That's fair.
I don't think his scenes were what was too long, honestly. But we'll go into the next two scenes. We'll all break it down more at the very end. Beverly gets home now. Her dad embraces her awkwardly and creepily. She goes to the bathroom and she snips her hair that he loves. And I wrote, that drain gonna be hella clogged. The boys are in their tidy whities hawking loogies over the cliff into a lake. Beverly shows up and jumps first. And then Richie says, we just got shit on by a girl. They jump in and have fun. They now stare at Bev tanning. They find Ben's, postal card and history book, and they admire her new haircut. Ben says Derry is a town like no other he's been in. You're 6 times more likely to die. They ride their bikes to Ben's house as a woman staples a missing person sign up for Patrick the Bully on the electric pole. Ben has historical pictures all over his wall. He tells them the story of 91 people at a camp disappearing, and the only clue was a trail of bloody clothes leading to the well. Bill asks, where's the well house? All right, now Eddie's walking home alone now, and stops when he sees his creepy house. The door flings open and he hears a voice call out his name. He drops his pills, and then a zombie-like hobo chases him into the yard of the creepy house. He now sees red balloons in Pennywise, and this visual is freaking awesome, guys. I love this visual. And then you hear Pennywise say, "We all float down there." He laughs and disappears. Eddie runs away as the balloons pop. Bev is at home and going through her backpack. A card falls on the ground, and she sees it's a secret admirer note from Ben. She smiles as she presses it to her chest. She hears whispers from the sink. "Help me, please. We all float down here." She looks down the drain, then goes to get a tape measure and feeds it down the drain. She brings it back in and it's covered in blood. And then this black hair comes up from the drain and it wraps around her arms and like her neck, and it pulls her really close. Then blood comes up the sink and covers her in the room. Her dad walks in asking what's going on, and he asks what blood because he doesn't see it. And then he notices her haircut and says she looks like a boy, and she starts to cry. Go ahead, Mike.
So right off the bat here, you get a lot of good character development with Beverly, and she is a very complex, interesting character to me. And by the way, I want to piggyback off something Brian said. It's not that I think Ben is like super interesting. I just felt kind of bad for him in a way. So I guess that's why that set of scenes did it for me. But this really is where you start to get some great character development with Beverly when she's cutting her hair off, and she's alone. Her dad sucks, and all that stuff. So. And the Tidy Whitey scene, man, first of all, I know Dead Meat James said it, so I'm going to repeat what he said. I don't know if I would take that jump now. Fuck that shit. That is way too damn high up. But it's like we touched on earlier, it is very Stand By Me, coming of age. Like that scene right there is very, very reminiscent of those movies, and I really enjoy it. Like I think it's really well done, and the way they're all kind of like oogling Beverly a little bit, it's just kind of funny. It's very, very 80s, very, very coming of age. And I love that. Man, you get this scene with Pennywise is like, to me, that image of Pennywise with the balloon, that is iconic stuff to me. I think it's so well done the way he chases Eddie. And I think that Eddie was the perfect choice to have that happen to. I thought that Bill Skarsgard was great there. And, Beverly in the bathroom scene, all that, God, her dad is creepy. Okay, I'm sorry. I should look this up. How old is Beverly supposed to be in this?
They're all supposed to be, I believe, 11 or 12.
Okay, well, every man in this town has hit on her already. Like, this is fucking disgusting. So, and including her own dad. So, all the voices and stuff. I just, that stuff is creepy. Like I said, this is a very Beverly heavy set of scenes, and for the most part, I enjoy it.
Yeah, these scenes are pretty intense. Just showing the dynamic of Beverly's home life just really will fuck with you, just because it's so gut wrenching. And the recurring theme is the bathroom is her safe haven, and that's why when when the sink attacks her, it becomes even more powerful, because it's like that's the place that she always runs to when she's in trouble. That's the place she cut her hair off. That's the place when later in the movie she runs back to the bathroom, and then she's in the bathroom, and then it starts attacking her. And so it's like, put yourself in her shoes. Where can you go at that point? That's pretty powerful stuff. The scene where Eddie is chased into the yard there, I think that's very well done too, because, like I said earlier, it does a great job of manifesting in whatever fears that kid has. And, Eddie's just a little sickly boy that is afraid of all these germs, and afraid of not taking his medicine, and afraid of not pleasing his mother, and afraid of his asthma attacks and all this, that, and the other. And so then he starts freaking out, drops his pills. And then, as Nico so eloquently put it, the hobo zombie started chasing him. And man, Nico, you're good for at least one of those an episode, and every time it catches me off guard and I die laughing. That was great. Hobo zombie. But but no, and then the scene where he looks up and Pennywise is standing there with the upside down pyramid of balloons, and that's just, man, like we said earlier, I don't find this to be a scary movie, but if you are creeped out by clowns, that scene will get you. And just the way that all the balloons pop at the same time and he gets away like that. That's a very tense scene.
Yes.
I think that this set of scenes is some of the best in the film as far as the way it's shot and the stories that it tells. I don't have a lot of negative to say. That bathroom scene really takes it home, though, as far as, like I said, just knowing what the bathroom is to her character as far as being her go-to place. And then when it betrays her, it being the bathroom, when the bathroom betrays her and she has nowhere else to turn to, it really, that would be hard on a kid.
It's also a disgusting fucking scene. Like, it's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, that whole Beverly Hills home scene. I mean, look, it's disturbing as hell. Like, the miniseries only went with the whole, beating aspect, whereas this one, like, implies a little more fucked up shit's going on there for Beverly, which really makes for, a pretty disturbing little sequence of events here. And, again, these kind of scenes are giving you this character development for these people that, books can do because they aren't restricted by time constraints. And, I feel like that this movie can do it so well because it's not restricted to just the 2.5 hour film. And I feel like that if they started cutting this down, scenes like this are going to get the hack. And to me, scenes like this are my favorite part of this, which is why, this movie took so long to get out of development hell because, every writer and director that left the project, and there were a few, by the way. I mean, they had to fight with New Line and the company that had this because basically, finally convinced them that, it needed to be 2 movies because they were hell bent on just squeezing it all into one. And I'm glad they did that. I love the whitey tighty cliff diving scene. It's another perfect example of the character development that you're getting to see with these kids, showing this bond they have, not just telling you and expecting you to believe it, like most movies do. And to me, it's this whole group of scenes, it may slow the movie down and make it longer, but it's a welcomed break to me to get, out of the intensity and watch the bond grow between these kids that you're supposed to believe, because that's such a hard, firm part of this whole plot, the whole 2 movies and the whole story arc is their bond. And I feel like that's something they have to hammer home, and they do. The only nitpick, and this is the first one I think I've had so far this review, I don't really like how all the history of it is just like given to you by Ben because he's a nerd and looked it up. I'm not really sure of a fix for that. While in a book the author can just tell you that, but obviously here they have to have some sort of conduit, for that, and they use Ben. I don't know. I never really bought into that for some reason.
I agree with you, Brian. I like the fact that they take time to show these kids, being kids, it's summertime. They're not supposed to just be, they're supposed to go swimming and have fun. I like that. And it makes you, it's really the magical part of this movie. I know Dustin's not really a fan, but that's what made season 1 of Stranger Things my favorite so far. Right. Even though 3 had the most action and all that, 1 was just the magic of those kids getting to hang out was just, it draws you in and it makes you really love the characters. All right, Bill wakes up as water drips from the ceiling. I wrote he has like a drawing of Beverly, it looks like, beside him. He started. He grabs a bucket, but he notices a door is open with the light on. It's Georgie's room. He cries, then sees a shadow on the door run off. He follows footprints downstairs into the kitchen. He then sees Georgie in a raincoat and a red balloon run into the cellar. I wrote the cellar is really flooded with water, and he sees Georgie in the corner. Come with me, you'll float too. And then Pennywise arises from the water and charges after him. And then Pennywise slithers away. Bev hears the boys and tells them she has to show them something. Richie is outside on the lookout. The boys see the blood-covered bathroom. They start to clean the blood up. Ben goes into her room and sees his card. He then sees Bev and Bill chatting, and he's kind of jealous looking. She says it's not true what they say about her. Bill says he never believed it. And she's a loser now too since she hangs with them. Richie says they took too long. Bill tells them the story of seeing Georgie. Eddie saw the clown too. Richie says, can only virgins see this? Richie, he brings a lot of the good comedy. They leave. They leave their bikes in the middle of the road. Let me flip my page real quick. They leave their bikes in the middle of the road to go help out Mike. Mike is getting attacked by the bullies and can see Pennywise. This is a really cool scene too. When Mike, he can see Pennywise in the distance with his arm in his hand, like a bloody arm. The losers throw rocks at the bullies and hit them in the head over and over. And then Richie yells, "Rock War." The losers win as the bullies run away. The kids are looking at missing people flyers. Ben tells them his research. Every 27 years, Mike says his grandpa thinks this town is cursed, an evil thing that feeds off the people of Derry. Maybe it feeds off what scares us most. Stanley tells of the woman he sees now. None of it makes sense. It's like a bad dream. Mike says he was inside the burnt house on Harris Avenue, and Richie says he's afraid of clowns. And boy, does he got something coming later if he's scared of clowns. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So, all right. The scene with Bill seeing Georgie in the basement. Again, I like it. I want to kind of like contradict myself a little bit here, and I do that from time to time. Yeah, I don't like the overall length of this movie, but you wouldn't. I don't know if this would be one of the scenes, but again, you would miss a lot of the character development that kind of makes this movie as good as it is. So I do kind of see that point. Bill seeing Georgie in the basement, and others, and you know, freaky and creepy and all that stuff. My favorite part of this set of scenes right here is everything that's happened with the characters. So I guess again I'm a walking contradiction because you get everybody kind of talking about their experience seeing Pennywise, but I love the way they use Pennywise when they help Mike out. Like I think it is so it's creepy, it's perfect. I love it. And again, Bill is great there. And I like, you know, I kind of agree with Brian. We're getting a lot of history about it that I don't necessarily know if I need because I'm a little bit more freaked out by the unknown. Why the fuck is this creepy ass clown hanging around? Like that would be a little bit more creepy to me than knowing every little thing, like going into town every 27 years and all of that stuff. But again, the Rock War scenes and telling each other about their experiences, it is very Stranger Things, like very fucking. I'm into these characters. I really like these kids, and you know, it makes a whole lot of sense why Richie, you know, who they casted in chapter 2 is it's fucking perfect, and it goes all the way back to this movie. And you know, Finn Wolfhard again, he almost brings a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe because he's on fucking Stranger Things. Like that is kind of, you know, those two things kind of, you know, blur the line there a little bit for me. And so this set of scenes is what it reminds me of. It's like a short little episode of Stranger Things, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, shit. That scene with Georgie in the basement being used as a puppet.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit. Like there's a few genuinely terrifying scenes in this movie, genuinely terrifying. And by God, that's one of them to me. Like it's such a well done, just fucked up scene. And it accomplishes, I think, everything it sets out to do. You know, actually the Rock War you talked about a little bit, they actually early on they changed this Rock War to a fireworks war, which thank God they changed it back because I mean I've had plenty of fireworks wars and I just don't see how that would even work there at all. I'm glad they saw that. Being hit by these big ass rocks, that's much more effective. And look, here's my other nitpick thing, and it's kind of the same thing. But Ben giving the every 27 years thing, again, like, can't we find a different conduit for these facts to be given to us? You know, this scene is the same thing that I always blast horror movies for doing. They all sit around, they give the exposition to move the story forward. And, you know, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I blast Scream, and I blast Nightmare, and all of them for doing it. And I'll hit this one up too. You know, to me, it's just this lazy writing, and you won't convince me of that, I don't think. I mean, I think the audience appreciates not being spoon-fed everything so quickly, like this round table discussion, you know, and you know, that's just, as I like to call it, round table discussion, you know, it's not as bad in this because, you know, there's some random, you know, it's not just some random scene one time in the movie. Like, you know, that they hit on it a few times to kind of further the story along with it. And it's always the same. So at least they're consistent with it. And, you know, but so I'm going to be consistent because I talk shit about it in every other one. So I'm going to talk shit about it in this one too. Also, goddamn, Stanley talking about the woman he keeps seeing and it's all serious. And then Richie says, is she hot?
Yeah.
God, I mean, that makes me laugh my ass off. And you talked about Finn Wolfhard, Stranger Things. Look, I love him in Stranger Things. He's basically playing the same character here.
Yeah.
And I pray he plays the same character in Ghostbusters 3 he's in, which here I'm going to go off on a tangent. That was supposed to come out on my birthday, but instead it got pushed back, and Mike hates me enough. Mike hates me enough that he's going to pick Paranormal Activity that weekend, and I was supposed to get Ghostbusters, so double whammy. So anyway,
I love you, Brian.
I love Finn, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what you said on these scenes. So as far as being spoon-fed the information, you're 100% right. It's lazy writing. I said it when we did See No Evil, how they just, wait, it was a big man with the chain. He had a hole in his head. I thought I killed him. We automatically assume that that's who it is. I said it in Freddy versus Jason, how, they just magically realized that Freddy's using Jason to get his powers back. I hate it when movies do that. Like, just find a different avenue to get us there, like you said. These scenes are great, though, except for, Richie is hilarious in this film, and I appreciate his humor. I appreciate the way that he brings some lighthearted comments in to break up the seriousness of the film. And then as far as the Rock Wars, though, so he throws a rock, and then Richie yells "Rock Wars" and gets nailed in the face immediately with the rock. That is comedic genius right there. That is well timed. That's just like when Georgie runs into the barricade at the front of the movie. I take that back every time. I'm like, God damn, that was great. But at the same time, we're going to be watching. These kids are going to turn into 7 or 8 little Chris Benoits. That's a lot of CTE to be handing out on the creek bank there. Throwing big ass rocks, and then just like you get hit with one rock and you're just going to keep going. And then none of these kids seem to favor their heads the rest of the film. Like, damn, I got a headache. No, they're just, what the hell are these kids' heads made out of? But that I had a problem with that as well, because if you're going to tell me that you're going to sit there and get hit in the head with a rock at least 3 or 4 times, that 10 minutes later you're not going to be like, shit, my head hurts. Come on, that's just not believable. As if Pennywise himself and the whole premise isn't unbelievable enough. That just seals the deal. The scene in the basement, I think, is very powerfully done, because, man, you talk about fucking with Bill's biggest, insecurity in life is the fact that he doesn't know what happened to Georgie. And then here's Georgie in the basement, tugging at the heartstrings. But, Dead Meat James Janice, he has a good point on this. If Pennywise has the ability to manifest himself in multiple forms at once, why hasn't he been doing that? He portrays Georgie at the same time that he's coming up out of the water.
Yes.
So that's a plot hole there, because if he could do that the whole movie, why hasn't he been doing that? Every time you see it manifested, it's only in one form: the hobo zombie or the clown, the painting lady or the clown. Well, I guess with Patrick in the tunnel too, there was like 8 or 9 of those weird lepers. So I don't know what's going on there, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense about why it's not being more versions of itself at once, if that's a possibility. But other than that, man, yeah, the biggest gripe I have, though, is let's just jump to this conclusion that's magically going to be spot on. No, get out of here with that.
Yeah, so one more thing I really wanted to add, and it's really quick. I think I've been kind of against a lot of the CGI in this movie. I think the way they use it in the basement scene is great. Like, I think it looks really good, and it's freaky, and it's genuinely fucking terrifying. So props to the CGI on that.
Yeah.
I haven't recovered from the 8 little Chris Benoits yet. I'm sorry, guys.
What was it? Something I said?
Who is Chris Benoit?
No, I agree with you about the headshots with the rocks, but you went straight for the top, didn't you? With Chris Benoit.
What? Come on, when you think of CTE, it's him or Aaron Hernandez. Come on.
All right, let's go to the next scene. Let's move on. All right, bear with me, guys. This is the garage and the first house scene, so I got a little bit wrote down for this. They all get to Bill's garage. They start a projector, and they look at the dairy's like sewer blueprint. All these locations are connected by the sewers. That's where it lives. Eddie says he can barely breathe. The slideshow starts by itself. Zoom ins on Georgie, and then Pennywise appears. Mike kicks the projector over. Then Pennywise comes out of the screen, crawling at them. They open the garage door up, terrified. It saw us and knows who we are. Bill wants to go to the house. He takes off on his bike and walks into the yard as the others arrive. Bill says he can't pretend this doesn't exist. All he sees at home is Georgie not being there. And I wrote that was a really powerful speech. Because he didn't stutter at all. He was very, firm and all that with it. Everyone but Bev is scared to go inside. Richie and Eddie go in with Bill. Richie finds a missing persons flyer with him on it and panics. They hear cries for help upstairs. They see someone on the floor and then drug off. Eddie turns around as he hears his name called. He grabs his inhaler. Another door opens and Richie and Bill's door closes. The hobo appears behind Eddie and he falls through the hole onto a table. Richie goes into another room and then that door closes. The lights flicker and he's in a room full of clowns. A coffin opens that says "Found" with his flyer on it. He slams it shut and Pennywise charges. Bill flings the door open as they get out. They now see Eddie's head come out of a mattress. Want to play loogie? And then a bunch of acid comes out of his mouth and streams at them. Eddie wakes up and Pennywise comes out of the fridge. I really like this scene. Time to float, Pennywise says. He walks slowly towards him. Richie and Bill turn around and see 3 doors. It says, very scary, scary, and not scary at all. Pennywise, he taunts Eddie. They run through the not scary at all door and see a woman hanging with no lower torso. Pennywise opens his fangs to bite Eddie. They go through the not scary at all door again because Bill says it's not real, and they see Pennywise. And then he says, I'm not real enough for you. He charges at them and Bev stabs him with a fence spike through his head, Jason Live style. He laughs at them and cuts Ben with the spike. He then leaves the room. Bill says don't let him get away. He goes into the cellar and he sees him descend into the well. Richie snaps Eddie's arm back in place. And that's the last part I got for that scene. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I love the slideshow scene. The way they pull that thing off I freaking love it. It's different. It's weird. It gives me an uneasy feeling, and I love the way the kids kind of play off of that. It's fucking freaky, but they're like you mentioned the speech. He didn't stutter, and all that's really well delivered, and he kind of rallies the troops there like a head coach or something. I really really enjoy all of that. And I really so. The scene where they finally go in the house, I love every bit of that. The way they use the doors, scary, very scary, not very scary, all that stuff. I love that, and the kids in here make this scene to me. Their acting is so fucking good. And again, I'm kind of trying to I hate to even talk about the horror aspects of this movie that much because the best parts of this movie to me so far are from this last time that I viewed it is the acting by the kids. I love the way they sell this. They're creeped out. And so again, it's not scary to me, but they're genuinely terrified. And Bill Skarsgard, and I know it's never going to happen, but for me, his acting in these scenes is top notch. He deserves a fucking Oscar for this shit. Horror needs its own category. That's another topic for another day. But I think Bill is great here. I'm not real enough for you, and all of that stuff. The way they shoot these scenes, the house is creepy. I love every bit of this, and while what's coming next to me kind of is a lot. It takes a lot out away from this scene, in my opinion. But I love just these two right here as a combo pack, a set of scenes. I fucking love them.
Yeah, the slideshow scene is probably my second favorite scene in this entire movie. I freaking love it. The cinematography, the quick cuts, the loud screeches, the dark chaos, the whole thing is amazing to me. Now, them entering, by the way, this is the house from the animated Monster House. It has to be. It looks exactly the same. It's the first thing I thought of. You ever seen the movie Monster House? This is the movie. This is the house. Anyway, the scenes with Richie again are just amazing. Him closing that coffin and then Pennywise busting up and finally giving that iconic, that beep beep Richie, that it's, I love it. And the not scary at all door being that, it cracked my ass up, which, given some of the shit in this movie has shown, it actually wasn't really as scary as my man Pennywise, has given. So he didn't really lie there. But, plus, let me say this. It it was completely fucked up of Pennywise to claw my man Ben in the stomach again. Because damn, that man's already had Joe Dirt trying to carve a jack-o'-lantern in there. Leave that man's stomach alone. Damn. But that's all I have about that little group of scenes. I love the slideshow, man. That scene's top notch.
Yeah. So this group of scenes, like you guys said, they're phenomenal. That projector scene, just the how they're not doing it, and the scenes just keep changing, and then it zooms in on Georgie, then it zooms in on the mom, and then all of a sudden the mom's face changes to Pennywise, and he comes out of the screen, and he's fucking huge. That's pretty creepy as shit. That's very well done, well shot, and then they go to the house, which now that you mention it, Brian, I think that you're 100% right. That has to be the house. The house. The thing about these scenes is, Bill Skarsgård did a great job when he's coming out of the refrigerator. That's creepy as shit. When they open the doors, though, I maybe it's because I'm an adult and I don't know how I would have thought at 13 years old or however these kids are. But when you see a door, knowing all the creepy shit that's going on in Pennywise's mind, and you see one that says not scary at all, scary, and very scary, I would go in the one that says very scary because I'm thinking it's got to be reverse, right? But they open it, and it's the girl that is hanging there is the girl that, her mom was at the school earlier waiting for her to come out. And that's the girl whose shoe that they found down in the sewer, which, by the way, when they were thinking that might be Georgie's galosh, come on, that was a big ass shoe for a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid to be wearing. But
I never caught that, man. I did not know that was that girl. Never caught that.
Yeah. And so that's a good little way to not really introduce her character, but just some callback to something earlier in the film. These scenes are very well done. I don't have any negatives to say. The scene where Eddie comes out of the mattress and is like, want to play loogies, and then all that shit comes spewing out of his mouth and out of the mattress. That's brilliant too, because his whole thing is that he's a germaphobe and he's afraid of basically everything in life, and so for all that nasty gunk to be coming out of him is pretty fantastic, and pretty gross seeing his arm broken like that. But overall, man, this is like I said, this movie does run long, and there are parts that you would want to cut, but nothing in this set of scenes.
All right, Eddie's mom says he's delicate, and they did this to him. We were attacked, Bill says. I don't want a dirty girl like you to touch my son, she tells Bev. Bill says we know where the well is, and we'll be more prepared the next time we go. Stanley says he's insane. Georgie's dead. Stop trying to kill us too, Richie says. Bill punches him out of anger. It wants to divide us, Bev says. Mike says he can't do this, and his grandpa was right. Now we get, just quick cuts of all the kids back to their daily activities, just living life. Now it's August. A cop walks up on Bauer shooting a gun. It's his dad. He shoots at his feet to scare him. Eddie goes to the pharmacy to get his refills. His pills are bullshit, the girl says, and she taunts him for having no friends, so she signs his cast. The other two bullies ask Henry if he's okay. Henry walks to a red balloon on his mailbox. There's a package with a knife he lost. Henry goes inside to his father asleep in the chair. The lady and the kids on TV yell, "Kill him." He stabs his dad in the neck, and Pennywise appears smiling on TV. "Kill them all," they yell. And I wrote that was a brutal death. Now Bev tries to leave, but her dad has a padlock on the door. He asks about her hanging with boys all summer long. He then shows her the secret admirer card. He asks, "Are you still my girl?" She yells no, and then she falls down. She kicks him in his balls, and then his face, and then runs to the bathroom. He kicks the door in, and she bashes him in the head with the toilet lid, Adam from Saw style. Pennywise grabs her by the throat as she tries to leave. Bill walks into Beverly's house, and he sees her dad on the ground. He then sees "You die if you try" written in blood on her wall and ceiling. He runs off and finds Richie at the arcade. He says it got Beverly. They call Eddie, and he calls his mom out on the bullshit pills. He runs out on his mom. All the kids show up to the house equipped, and then Eddie chunks his fanny pack. And the next few scenes are the ending. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so so when we talk about stuff that I think could be cut, some of the stuff with the and I know it's character development, but just for the sake of time, the Bill and Richie fight, Eddie's mom picking him up, and I know Eddie's mom kind of plays into the whole thing in the second movie because you go up to marry your own mother, all that stuff. Like I get some of that, but some of that can be cut. Like there is, it's just it runs a little long for me. I like Bev attacking her dad in the shower. I am fine with that. But even the scene where Henry Bowers kills his dad and the cop, I don't care. And it could just be me, but I don't care as a movie watcher, as someone who's thoroughly enjoying this movie so far. Like this is something that I would cut. It's a subplot to me that isn't that needed, and like the Dustin mentioned, it's a second antagonist, and I just don't feel adds anything. Like if you're gonna have one, I feel like it needs to be a little more important, a little more highlighted, and it doesn't happen for me here. This scene that just doesn't click with me. Like I don't care about Henry Bowers and his dad and all that. And I like that it gets Beverly, and that's how the group comes back together. I like all that, and I don't necessarily feel like you need to have some of the earlier stuff that came before it to set that up. I don't know, or maybe just went through it a little quicker or something. There's just a lot. And even when Eddie calls his mom out about the pills and all that, again, it's kind of a plot that I don't really care about just for the sake of time. Like it's interesting, but for the sake of this movie's running long, I'm looking at my watch. Like we need to kind of move this along. I would have cut a lot of that out and just have Bev attacking her dad, just have the group kind of come back together for the sake of Bev, have the time go by and all that. That's fine. But, some of this other stuff just kind of feels like fluff. What we're about to get saves it, but the stuff right before this ending, I'm not a huge, huge fan of.
So, this is what I was talking about earlier a little bit, where the book has Bauer's father, being like a crazy abusive and super racist, a guy, a farmer, I think. But it's almost to the point where it definitely to the point I think where you feel a little bit of sympathy for Bowers. Even though he's a psychopath, you kind of understand where he's coming from when you get those scenes of his father being crazy abusive. Kind of like you do with Bev earlier, and it's whereas in this movie it's almost like the writers didn't want you feeling any sympathy for Bowers, like at all. And I mean, shit. I mean, I would beat my kid too if I caught him doing half the stuff Henry is doing, but you didn't really see that in the movie. Right. So again, Henry just like comes across, even though even more like a psycho. Just killing him like this. And I think Dustin may hit on this too. Like he may be right in the fact that if you're not going to give him the full character development that he needs, because he does, we don't need just another crazy psychopath bully killing people, but I would love to see more of him being like a sympathetic bad, like you understand why he's kind of gone this way, whereas the people in the Losers Club have, gotten bullied and like Bev, gotten abused, but she didn't go the route that Henry took. He went the other way. And, that's interesting. That's interesting character development to me that we didn't get. Even Rob Zombie, Michael Myers had a pretty good reasons for, doing his mom's boyfriend like he did. Whereas I don't feel like the movie gave me enough, reasons why Henry would do something like that. So the scene, Nico is right. The scene's great. It's very like, holy shit. Like, putting that up to him and just clicking the button. That's pretty crazy, but it's just, that's my whole complaint with the whole arc of Henry. And so I think Dustin may have hit a nail on the head if that's the route that you're going to take. And, obviously we've gotten plenty of backstory on Beverly's dad though. So, you're definitely rooting for her during that whole ass kicking. So I guess that's my whole little problem with the whole scenes. I felt like it was missing a little bit of something, and knowing that backstory and knowing the stuff that they didn't put in the movie, it kind of is missing a little something.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, the film in its current incarnation is just, it's a touch long. And when you look at what can cut out a hell of a lot of time, it's this meaningless character that kills his father. We don't see his dad being a bad dad. We see him being a stern dad. We see him go a little bit overboard when he shoots the gun at his son's feet like that, just scared the shit out of him. but we don't see him being an abusive father. And so there's no reason to have that little douchebag sociopath stab his father like that and even be in the film. Like you said, the fight scene probably could have been shortened or taken out altogether between Richie and Bill. I do like I said, when Eddie goes back to the pharmacy. I said this earlier. I didn't realize that was Greta, who was the girl that dumped the trash water on Bev. That's her father's pharmacy. When she tells him it's the placebo pills, I laugh again. This is one of those things that gets me every time I watch this movie. When Eddie tells his mom about the gazebo pills, like that's funny. It's funny as shit. Greta's such a bitch too, right? And lose her on the cast like that. What a bitch. But yeah, these scenes just, I really could do without Henry altogether. Bev's dad is, I don't want to watch those scenes because it's uncomfortable, but I wouldn't have cut those out because I feel like it's very necessary to show the evil that he is. And then even later on when, not to jump ahead in scenes, but when Bev doesn't really have any fears of Pennywise, what does he manifest himself as? Her father. And so I think that's necessary storytelling as far as the plot and script goes. It's just, man, fuck that little redneck with the mullet.
All right, here's the ending, y'all. Stanley doesn't want to go inside, but Bill says we have to stay together or be killed individually. They walk to where the well is. Bill descends into the well. Now we see Beverly on the ground. She gets up and hobbles through the sewer. She sees all the floating bodies. She hears a music box. Then we see Pennywise do his dance. She tries to run off, but he grabs her by the throat. She says she's not afraid. You will be, he says. He opens his mouth, and her face goes blank as she sees the light in the back of his throat. Mike is attacked by Bowers before he can descend down the well, and then Bowers pulls the rope out of the well. Bowers gets on top of Mike, and he presses that bolt gun to his head. Mike pushes him off and then tackles him, and he falls down the well. Stanley hears a voice and then sees Pennywise. They realize he's gone, and they look for Stanley. He looks around, then is attacked by the woman on the painting. They find the woman on top of Stanley, but it's actually Pennywise, and he almost got his head bit off. He has those giant teeth marks on his face. Bill runs off when he sees Georgie run down a tunnel. Bill finds Bev's body floating. He leaves when he sees Georgie run around a pile of trash again. The rest of the guys find Bev's body floating and pull her down. Her face is blank and her eyes are glazed over. Ben kisses her and she comes back, and they all have a big group hug. Georgie asks, "What took you so long? Take me home. I love you, Billy." And then Bill, he shoots Georgie with the bolt gun. The body convulses and it becomes Pennywise. "Kill it," they all yell. And then he pounces on Bill. They all jump on Pennywise, but he gets a hold of Bill. "I feast on your flesh as I feast on your fear." Bill tells them to leave. "I don't want to die," Richie says. Then he grabs a bat and he attacks Pennywise. He tries to stab Mike with his spider legs. They all take turns hitting Pennywise. And then he turns into Bev's dad, and then she rams the steel beam down his throat. He didn't kill Beverly because she wasn't afraid. Bill says none of them are. Pennywise's head dissolves, and then he falls down a well. Bill hugs Bev, and they notice all the kids start to float down. Bill finds Georgie's raincoat and cries, and they all hug him and comfort him. September. They're sitting all in a field talking by that lake or river. Bev says she can only remember parts. Her dad's dead. They're all older. She only remembers how they felt. Bill says to swear if it isn't dead, they'll come back and kill it. And they all do a blood oath. They grab hands and form a circle. Stanley says, "I hate you," and smiles as he leaves. Bev tells Bill she's going to her aunt's and never felt like a loser. And then Bill chases her down and kisses her. She grabs him and kisses him, and she says bye, and she walks off. And that's the end of the film, guys. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so first of all, just as a collection, I really enjoy most of this ending. I think the way it's shot, the way the acting of the cast, and I think Bill Skarsgård is great here, and all of that. Again, there's some bad CGI to me, and I feel like I know I'm nitpicking, and I feel like I should just be able to remove that and enjoy the movie as it is. But there's some bad CGI here. When the lady in the painting is, is basically eating, the kid's head, and I'm kind of taken out of that scene. Like, it doesn't, now the way that he sells it after the fact, with the teeth marks and stuff, I think that's really well done. But some of that is just like, it's just a CGI. It doesn't do it for me. But there's some good CGI here too. It's not all bad. The way that the kids are floating around and stuff, I think all that's really well done. And I like how they get Beverly down there. I like how she's frozen, and Ben's the one that gives her the kiss and all that stuff. So, okay, I don't know why I feel like we almost involved Georgie a little too much here at the end, and how he turns into Pennywise. And I'm not a fan of this Pennywise spider thing or whatever the fuck it is. Like, I'm just not a fan. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. But I like that they all fight Pennywise together, and we knew we were getting a chapter 2, so him falling down the well like that's not a big thing with me. But again, I like the way it's shot. I like the way they do this, and I like the kids here. And I like the blood oath and all of that stuff. And I think it's very, again, we talked about it a lot in this show. It's very 80s movie, Stand By Me, all that stuff. It has a lot of that going on. But I don't like that Bill and Bev are the ones that end up kissing. But that's okay. That's remedied in chapter 2. So all in all, I think it's really well done.
Yeah, one thing they don't really cover much in this is that, I kind of wish that they did a little bit more. Here I am, packing more onto the movie, but the deadlights aspect, like, yes, I mean, it showed that seeing the deadlights is what gave Beverly her premonitions, and yes, it's a little inconsistent even in the book, but it's supposed to be like Medusa, where like seeing them is enough to like drive you mad or kill some people, and it's not something that Pennywise like controls. So the deadlights are actually like Pennywise. In what I read was it's as close to his true form as he can appear on Earth. And, again, that's what I was talking about in the opening, where the explanations of some of this stuff is maybe a little too sci-fi-ish and takes away from the scariness factor of the unknown. But, I that's one aspect I kind of would have maybe liked to have seen a little bit more of. But I'm glad they cut that damn turtle out. And, we can talk about that a little bit more in the second one. But, there was actually a deleted scene showing Bowers killing the other 2 bullies, stabbing them to death as well. And, I liked Mike being the one to take down Henry. I'm not a fan of him coming back in chapter 2, and we can get into that next week. And I actually wasn't going to spoil that, but I think Nico already said something about it. So if you haven't watched it, man, spoiler alert, Henry comes back. But all right, so let's talk about this book scene. So in the book, the Losers Club, like, they defeat Pennywise, they get lost in the sewers, and then like realize they can't escape without being quote unquote unified. And so Beverly decides the way to unify them all is that she needs to have sex with all 6 of the boys. They do that, and then suddenly one of them remembers the way out. I mean, like, thank God Andy Muschietti decided to just skip that scene entirely, because I don't even know how you would do that in 2020, for one thing. And, just have them be outside. I liked how they just did that. And look, I kind of get King's intent from that. He wanted to, do something, defining them into, adulthood, like Stand By Me that you've mentioned so many times. But that's just, come on, King. I mean, like, in his defense, he's commented as saying, quote, I think it's fascinating to me that there has been, so much comment about that single sex scene and so little about the multiple child murders. That must mean something, but I'm not sure what, end quote. That's an interesting way to look at it, I guess. But I mean, come on. I don't think that those two things are anyway. I don't know that. I'm glad that they cut that out. Let's just say that. I don't think this would have been the movie that it is with it in there. And I'm glad they didn't include it. On a sad note too, like, look, that scene with Bill and Georgie, like, for real, admittedly makes me tear up every time. Like, that's a very like strong and powerful emotional scene for me. Like, when and then he finds his raincoat, and I get Mike, saying that there's maybe a little bit too much Georgie, but that was a very powerful, like, for me personally. No doubt. So it really hit me, and I like that they had that scene in there. And when they're all together hitting Pennywise, you get this like that whole strong sense of bond and togetherness with that whole thing. It almost like gives you a little bit of goosebumps, like, oh shit, like, it really amps me. It amped me up anyway watching it again this time. And you don't get that same bond with the next one. You know, we'll get into that next week, but you're not supposed to, I don't think. And
Right.
you know, shit. Like, look, I love this movie, and I can't wait to give my rating for it.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what you said there. I do. First of all, Henry going after Mike and saying the shit about how he gets teary eyed every time he passes by that old house, all the ashes, because he's just sad he wasn't the one that burned it down. Like, fuck you. Like, that's another reason I wish he wasn't in this film. Just what a prick. And then, like you said though, Nico, the way that he takes a spill down the well there, and then he's magically perfectly fine to be in the second one. I don't like that. The way that I got to disagree with you a little bit, Mike, because what you said about too much Georgie, I viewed it as, here it is, we're getting the thick of things. It needs to eat, and so it's pulling out all the stops, trying to make Bill as vulnerable as possible, so that he can get some food in his belly, because it's almost time. He's almost got to go away, and so that's how I took that. That's the reason to me there was so much, not just George in that final scene, but so much over the top everything. I mean, you saw him change the painting lady, the spider leg thing, whatever the fuck that was, all that stuff, and that's how I took that. The dancing scene will forever be hilarious to me because of all the videos that were going around Twitter, people just dubbing any song under the sun to that video, and so I've forever got those memories. Poor Ben, man. Ben's the one that's like freaking out. Ben's the one that kisses Bev and says, "Hey, please don't go." You know, saves her life essentially. She opens her eyes, says January embers, because she realizes it was him, and he says, "I cried there too," or whatever the rest of the thing was. And then what's she do immediately after? She hugs Bill. Womp womp womp. Man, that was a big old kick in the friend zone nutsack there, my pal. But yeah, as far as the final scenes, now when this film was completed, the sequel hadn't been greenlit yet officially, and so that being said, had I not known, because I didn't see this movie till after. Well, it was closer to the second one coming out. Had I not known that the sequel was coming out, I wouldn't have been satisfied with this ending, honestly. I like the conclusion that we get in the second one better than this one as a standalone. But that being said, it doesn't take away from the film. I agree with you, Brian. I can't wait to give my rating. I'm very high on this film. Like I said earlier, this is probably my favorite adaptation of a Stephen King novel outside of The Shining, because I don't count it because there were so many differences between his vision and Stanley Kubrick, the great Stanley Kubrick. But
the great Stanley Kubrick.
That's right.
But no,
Stanley Kubrick. You heard that, Brian.
I completely and 100%. I 100% agree with you, though, Brian. I am glad that they left the orgy out. We don't need that shit. Yeah. There's enough kids fucking in the real world. I don't need to see it on my television screen. It's just it wouldn't have made sense. Like that's a dumb thing anyway. Like that's how that to me is almost like the lazy writing of, oh, this is how we figure it out. So we're just gonna have a 7-person gangbang, and now we're gonna remember how to get out of this cave. No, fuck that. Get out of here with that. As the film stands currently, it's damn near flawless, other than the flaws that I mentioned, which is still pretty damn good.
Yeah, definitely.
Beverly, I'm home. All right, just kidding. Y'all ready to jump into fun facts?
Sure.
I just have a few. Jackson Robert Scott, Georgie, is the youngest in the movie and stated that he wasn't as scared of Pennywise as he thought he would be. He said he actually had fun time doing his scenes and that Bill Skarsgard was always joking around. Bill Skarsgard did research into the Psycho universe to find his own way to perform Pennywise. He got inspiration from The Shining, A Clockwork Orange, the great Stanley Kubrick, The Dark Knight, and The Silence of the Lambs. Bill had auditioned in
Clockwork Orange. He has not even seen Clockwork Orange.
Hey! Let's not worry about all that. Bill had auditioned in Hollywood for the role of Pennywise. This required him to wear clown makeup to the audition. He proclaims, "There was something kind of humiliating and absurd about the whole thing. I'm an actor auditioning in Hollywood, and I'm driving with clown face on. It's kind of a metaphor for what the profession of acting feels like." The teeth prosthetics that Bill wore as Pennywise made him drool profusely. Director Andy Muschietti liked this as that the drooling adds on to the ravenous nature of Pennywise. And the film is the highest grossing of Stephen King adaptation film to date. If anybody else has fun facts, go ahead. All from IMDb.
I got a few.
Yeah, go ahead, Dustin.
So, Skarsgard's teeth prosthetics made him drool in real life, which the director loved because it made him added to Pennywise's ravenous nature. And so all the drooling effects that you see on the screen is pretty realistic because he was drooling because of the fake teeth. This film was shipped to theaters under the code name Pound Foolish, which is an opposite of Pennywise. So that's pretty funny and clever there. In Germany, after the film played in theaters, there was a message that was shown on the screen that read, "The moral is never trust a clown," with a Burger King logo, and this was done to tease their rival McDonald's, and it left the audiences pretty confused, but it was pretty clever marketing by Burger King there. The first teaser trailer had over 197 million views in 24 hours, which broke the previous record of 139 million by The Fate of the Furious. Chosen Jacobs, who played Mike in this film, he also was a recurring character on Hawaii Five-0, which stars Scott Conn, Scott Conn was in Ready to Rumble with David Arquette. Oh, sorry.
Oh my God! Wait a minute. I thought we halted that. Well,
That one came out of nowhere. I like it.
The last thing that I have is Nico touched on it earlier. Yeah, the coincide with and I got this from IMDb as well. To coincide with the 1989 primary setting, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Dream Child is featured on the movie marquee, and the director revealed in an interview that Freddy Krueger was considered as a fear for one of the Loser Club members, to have him be what it manifests as to scare the shit out of the kid. However, it was ultimately scrapped out of not feeling right and wanted to stick to the trauma and childhood fears without staying too meta. So I know that at least three of us would have liked a little bit more meta in this film, but it's fine just the way it was. Oh, and actually I do have one more. The scene where they're in the house and he opens the door and there's all those clowns in there. Eddie's was that Eddie? Richie's in the room with all the clowns. One of the clowns is actually looks just like Tim Curry's portrayal of Pennywise from the 1990 miniseries. And so if you look when he's facing the back of the room where that casket opens up, on the left side of your screen in the floor there is the original Pennywise right there.
Mike, you got any fun facts?
I did not know that one about Freddy. I didn't find that when I looked. You guys pretty much mentioned all I had, so I'm just going to kind of play my role here and go straight up box office. So, you mentioned it already, Nico. It's the highest grossing Stephen King adaptation of all time. By the way, this movie came out in 2017. That's like, what is it, like the second newest movie we reviewed outside of Halloween, right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The budget was $35 million, and it made $701.8 million. So, pretty nice.
Pretty good. All right. Before we jump into ratings and all that, we did have two quick questions on the Facebook page, and we really appreciate the questions. Michelle, she asked, "Do you like the book, the original miniseries, or the remake the best?" Well, I've only seen the remake, so I'm gonna go with the remakes. Brian, what do you like the best?
I've seen both movies, well, the miniseries and the movie, and I've read the book. And honestly, I think this is the best because it takes it had the benefit of coming later. So, it got to pick and choose a little bit of what would work from the book and what wouldn't. And, what did work from the miniseries. And I like this the best.
Dustin?
Yeah, I haven't read the book. I've read parts of it, but I haven't read the whole thing. I have seen the miniseries. I own it. I own this movie as well. Based off what I know, this one is 100% the best version of it. And it's rare to say that a movie be better than the book. I can't accurately say that because I haven't read the full book. But based on what I know and what I've heard other people say, yeah, this one.
Mike?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Brian where I've read the book, I've seen the miniseries, and I've seen this movie. I definitely think that this version is the best adaptation. but it's basically because, in the quote, the great Hannah Montana, you get the best of both worlds.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. We got one more quick
What happened?
question.
Something I said?
Miley Cyrus quote.
All right. Sean asked us, was Bill Skarsgård or Tim Curry better? I haven't seen the miniseries yet, so I'm not going to pick. I'm just going to go off of the look. I think Bill's look is way better than Tim's. I'll go with that. I know a lot of the miniseries fans think Tim Curry is great, which I'm sure he is. Bill is great as well, but I'm just going to go based off just the look since I haven't seen the miniseries yet. But I like Bill's look way better. Brian, which one's better, Bill or Tim?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go Bill as well. And I mean, I really, Tim Curry's, I look at that thing's got its place. I said at the beginning, and it's not anything against it. I mean, if you'd have put Tim Curry here as in this movie, it would have been interesting to see how he would have done. Obviously, that couldn't have happened, but but I like Bill's better.
Dustin, Bill,
Yeah.
or Tim?
Yeah, I gotta agree. And I don't want to keep saying the same thing over as you guys, but this is not a slight to Tim Curry at all because that's a classic, iconic performance, and I
Right.
don't dislike the original miniseries. But take it for what it is. Bill Skarsgård just absolutely owned it and killed it. It's one of those, to me, it's like a Heath Ledger Joker performance as far as his commitment to it
Right.
and his the way he delivered. So I was hats off to Bill Skarsgård for this.
And he suffered.
You're absolutely
He suffered a lot of the mental
Right.
struggles
Yep.
that during the filming and afterwards too. So he definitely dove into the character. Mike, Tim, or Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to go Bill, and it's basically a mix of what they both just said right there, except, and I agree with you, a very dark role, a much better role, more serious role. Tim Curry was kind of not played for jokes, but a little bit more over the top, a little bit more campy, and it was of its time, and it has its place, and I think he does a great job, but I think Bill Skarsgård is just, he knocks this thing out of the park. He's great. That's why I said if I were, batting for the other team, I'd have him call me sometime.
And there's nothing wrong
And
with
I really-
admitting a man's handsome. Nothing wrong with it.
That's right. He's a handsome son of a gun.
All right, y'all ready to jump into favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to go first?
I'll go first and
All
set
right.
the tone. Let me do this.
Okay, go ahead,
All
Brian.
right, so all right, so my favorite kill is it is Georgie. Basically, I think just because of the maybe it's cheating a little bit because of the it gets talked about and messed with so much throughout the whole movie. It keeps replaying in your mind, but that set the tone for the whole movie, and so that was my favorite one. Even though you didn't see it happen. And on the flip side, my least favorite kill is Henry's because you kind of wanted to see it happen, him just getting kicked down the well. I was, and I know he's not technically dead, but in this one, you're assuming that he's dead, so I count it as a kill, or anyway. And my rating is a 10. I'm giving this thing a 10. Love it.
Woo!
There's been like there's maybe been 2 other movies I rated a 10, and this is one of them. I love it.
Wow. Holy smokes.
I'll-
Hey, so
I'll-
Brian,
Go ahead, Mike.
that's what is that? Silence of the Lambs, It, and I
7.
can't remember the other.
7.
Yeah, sorry,
That was it.
7. You got 3 10s. Look at you.
Well, check this out. All right, favorite kill is I'll pick Bauer's dad just because that scene was great to me. I thought it was really powerful. I love seeing Pennywise on the TV with that evil smile as he done it. I thought that was awesome. Georgie's death was great. I think the scene was great. I don't know if his death was great because you just see his arm bit off and him drug under. You got to use your mind more. But it's a great scene. My least favorite kill was Patrick, the other bully in the sewer. It was just Pennywise jumping on him. You didn't really see it. And I'm right there with you, Brian. I wrote down a 9.5, then I wrote a 10, then I changed it to a 9.5. So, but I settled on it. This movie's I gave it a 10.
Let's go.
The only con that I have is you kind of feel the runtime, but it's not too bad, honestly. My pros were I love Skarsgård as Pennywise. I love the cast of the kids. You get the Goonies and Stand By Me vibes. Opening scene with Georgie is incredible. Probably a top 5 horror scene for me. Opening scene. You feel the emotion and connection between the kids at the end with the group hug. And one more time, Skarsgård as Pennywise is amazing. This movie is great. I really couldn't find anything I didn't like.
Whew, look at these two. All right, I'll go next. Let Brother Dustin go last here. So, my favorite kill is Georgie, like Brian said, and it's basically just because how impactful it was and how great that scene is. It's really hard to beat. It's one of the best scenes in the movie, so I definitely go with Georgie. My least favorite, so I don't really have a least favorite, so I'm gonna go. What was that bully's name? Patrick in the cave. That was probably it. Like
Yeah.
I didn't really go for that. It's kind of an irrelevant kill there. Um, so overall, I kind of said it in my opening thing where I really, really enjoy this movie. It's really long. It's not chapter 2 long, which will bring that score down quite a bit. But it is long. I pointed out some flaws. There's a little too much CGI for me. I'm a fan of practical effects, but very enjoyable. Love this movie. I love the acting. I love all the acting in this movie. I don't think there's a single poorly casted character, so that really helps. Directing is great. Cinematography is great. So I'm gonna go 9. I give it a 9, not a 10. I couldn't go 10. A little too long to go 10. But the acting and the characters is what really makes this movie not scary, but a really good movie.
Yeah. So as far as favorite kills, it's basically got to be Georgie, right? I mean, just the way that it sets the tone, it pulls at your heartstrings from the get go because, like I said earlier, he's such a cute kid that you really you fall in love with this character immediately, like he's part of your family, and because he's so innocent and so sweet, and he deserved better. Although, is it really a kill? Because, like you said, we didn't see the kill, which brings me to my next topic. My least favorite kill is a tie between Henry's dad, because what I said earlier, I don't think he deserves to be in the movie. Like, I could have done without that. But as far as the scene, it was a good scene. But it's a tie between that and all the other kills because they're all off camera. That's my biggest beef with this is for the scary elements that we have in this film. They could have done more as far as the kills go. You don't have to go all gory with it and just make it a blood fest, which you did that in the bathroom scene. But you don't really see any kills on screen. You see Betty Ripson, half of her body. You see her torso hanging from the chains there, but you didn't see her die, and she was screaming. So was she even dead? It's hard to pick a least favorite kill, I guess is what I'm saying. But that being said, it doesn't take away from the film. I agree with Mike. I'm going to go with a 9. I think that this film is phenomenally done. It's one of the best movies. I'll put this movie up against pretty much anything we've reviewed.
Yeah.
It's a movie that I will watch anytime that it's on. I don't mind. And like you said, the runtime is the only thing that kept it from being a little higher because everything else was phenomenal. So overall, we give this film a 9.5, though, which is pretty damn good.
That's
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah. Wow. I don't know what to say, guys. I really enjoyed. I mean, like I said, the first time I watched it, I wasn't all in my viewing. This time I was, because you have to be to take notes on it, and I loved it because, I'm a self-admitted I love Stranger Things, and I got a lot of, it made me think of Stranger Things. I can't say it got vibes from there because, good God, Stranger Things takes stuff from everything from the 80s, I think. But
Right.
And it had Finn Wolfhard in it. I like Mike too, so. But I love the cast of kids. The kids really, they suck you in, and you really I'm a fan. Anybody got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I just wish Beverly had looked at Finn Wolfhard and said, "I dump your ass." Oh, sorry. Stranger Things reference. You're welcome.
I dump your ass.
I dump your ass.
Anybody final thoughts before we get out of here?
I'm good, man.
No.
All right. Like we said, next week we're going to be doing It Chapter 2. Whew. If y'all thought this was a long one, well, we're talking about maybe changing up our film review for next week just to shorten the runtime a little bit. But I'm really looking forward to breaking that film down as well. That will be the newest film that we reviewed once we do that one. We really appreciate all the support. We tried out a new audio platform tonight. I hope it sounds great. Hope y'all like it. And we really appreciate all the support, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Don'tGoOutThere.com.
And just want to remind everybody to don't go out there.